Hello and welcome back to Woodhill Park. As I've been saying, I've got a lot more detail to add to this and jigging around with it really. I designated the front Redlands Aggregates just as a tip in a hat to a company from the past, but obviously the cement wouldn't be Redlands, so I thought the factory behind, as a compromise, there's a joint venture on my layout and it's between Blue Circle and Redland. So the factory behind is going to be Blue Circle. I think I've got that on straight. It looks straight, yeah. So the factory's Blue Circle and the aggregates being handled in front are Redland, in my world anyway. Another bit of detail added, can't stop adding detail on that, is a supply tube from the building, which you see many of on these installations. I've got the silos that are on top of the building down the shed drying, just sprayed them. So each time I look at it I keep thinking what else I can add. It's sort of endless really. I've been looking to see if I can buy a cement mixer from like the 1980s, and do you think I can find one? All I can find is an American one made by Oxford Diecast and some dubious other versions that don't look like they're in the right scale. So just a simple cement mixer. Yeah. Obviously I need to weather all this as well, so that will be done in time. Once I get my little airbrush out, I'll dirty it up a bit. It looks too clean, especially for what it does. I've just been back down the shed and the silos are dry, and I've just labelled them to go with the factory as well. I'm not going to actually glue them on top, I don't think, because I'm likely to reach over and break them off anyway. So it's far better to just knock them over and pick them up again and put them back. So I think I'll just stand them on there. Maybe staggered, because it's a radius that's going into the actual filling station, I suppose you might call it. And eBay's nagging me. No peace. And I'm another stage further. I laid some more concrete from this point, as I thought there wasn't enough concrete. It looks a bit silly that it was only narrow, and I thought if I do more of an expense of concrete, I can have, you know, aggregate piled here and there and other different bits and pieces of scenery just to give it more interest. So I laid more concrete, and the clay is drying slowly, but I did it with a different method. I levelled it and rolled it like normal, but then close to when it was finished and it was the right height, I got the ruler and I went backwards and forwards on it like you would on real concrete and moved along, and it gave it this rippled effect, which I quite like, because it looks like fresh concrete has been added to the original sort of area that was in front of the factory, and there's a difference. You can see the line where the addition is, and I quite like that. I quite like the crossover between different types of or different parts of concrete, and you've got the more modern piece here being laid in a more professional manner. Well, a bit more time has passed and I'm back up in the loft, and I've just fitted a bit of backing paper over here. As a lot of people quite rightly said, it did spoil it having this beam coming down here, but obviously I've got no choice in removing that. But I think disguising it helps. A lot of people said paint it, and I didn't fancy that, because once you paint something, especially wood, you can't really take it back, and I didn't want paint all over the loft. But it just came to me, I thought, why not match it in with some backing paper? I've got some spare sky scene, and wrap it tightly and try and match it with the back. And behind it is fairly similar in colour, and it certainly looks better than brown woodwork anyway. So you were quite right out there that it did really need the eye taken away from this woodwork, and I think that's a lot better. I've yet to weather the whole factory, but I weathered the odd bits and pieces, but I'm waiting until the end of the build really before I start weathering things, because I keep adding bits and pieces all the time. I'm I've been working on this area down here, so I'm saying I'll move that out of the way in a moment, because that's a part of the factory. I was just going to put it all together on camera in a minute. I put some piles of aggregate down there, and I've got a vehicle, an old, I think they were around up to the 80s, because I did look it up. I think it's a J Big something. Can't remember the actual name of the truck, but they were around to the I think 1982. So it's an old truck. It probably needs weathering because of that. But it belongs to Wimpy, and obviously Wimpy Homes have come along to get some aggregate for their building site, and they're busy loading up the truck. I've got other bits and pieces coming. As I've said previously, I've got a cement mixer and stuff like that coming. Hopefully they'll turn up in the post. Post seems to be a bit slow at the moment. What I'll do is come around here and I'll put the factory together again, because I have been adding stuff to the factory. Right, I've just moved the camera back because the camera's a bit too close to it to see all the stuff I'm about to put on it. Hopefully I don't bang the camera while I'm doing it. But first of all, I've got the Backman Scenecraft building, which I repainted, and as you've seen before, that just sits in there nicely. And then in front of that is the conveyor belt and sort of area that drops the aggregate into the wagons. That sits in front like that. And then new bits I've been working on, because it is a cement factory in the background, and this method press flow keeps coming to mind, and it's usually a pressurised sort of building. I think it is. It's called press flow, so pressurised flow, I suppose. And they're normally quite cylindrical, and you can get 3D printed bits and pieces. But I thought I'd have a go at making my own. So I don't know what you think, but this is my interpretation of a press flow facility. It's made with bits and pieces as usual, and that's going to sit up there and supply the tankers with cement And then in front of them I've got the hoppers I was talking about, 3D hoppers, 3D printed hoppers that is. And I'm going to have one sort of sitting about there, and one sort of in the foreground about there. And I'm going to leave them all loose, because if I start reaching over I'm bound to break them off anyway. And lastly, I made another chimney up, just an extractor chimney, and I shall put that there. That's weighted at the bottom so it shouldn't fall over. It's a nice big weight to hold it in place. And as you can see, it all assembles and disassembles. So should I need to get into that tunnel, I just take all these things off and I can get in there. I've been adding signage, as you can see, blue circle, cement facility at the back, and I've been finishing off some of the sort of galvanised sheeting on it at the back, and I'm just going to sort of, I suppose, weather some of the cement area and maybe have some spillages and that where the tankers are going in. And I need to weather this a little bit, and I suppose I'm working towards adding lights as well. I don't know what stage I'll do that at, but I've been looking at what I can do to light it up, as it will look really good at the end of the loft in the distance with sort of the country scene in the background, and it's being the only facility that's lit up, like you often see when you're out in sort of a country area that's being sort of well used for its local resources, that the buildings will be lit up and there's nothing else around for miles. I think that'll look quite good. People working at night, getting the aggregate and making the cement, really. The lighting I'm going to use is only cheap lighting you can get off the internet, and they're good enough. They look pretty good, but when they light up, they do light up the area really well. So I should be dotting these around, and I do actually fancy putting one through the building and having it. Oh, I told you I'll knock things over. Anyway, I'll pick that up in a minute. But coming through the building and then lighting the sign, I think that'll look good, especially when all the lights are off. So that's what I plan on doing. Put that out the way over there. And I better recover my hopper, which is fallen over the back. Easily put back in place. So what do I do next, besides the lighting and the weathering? I think I'm quite happy with it at the moment, but that's never the end. There's always something. You see a facility like this and you just want to add something else. Crazy. It's been a brilliant project. I've enjoyed every moment of it, and it's great sort of improvising with bits and pieces as well. I hope you've enjoyed it too, and thanks for all your comments. I've had some really nice comments, and I've been pleased with the feedback that I've got generally. So thanks very much. to get my airbrush and start weathering, and I had a bit of bad luck. The batteries died, so I managed to do a bit of weathering, but only by using it with the power supply. So I had a lead on the end and it wasn't very good, but I struggled, and I did manage to weather the concrete and weather the factory to some sort of degree, and I think it looks a bit more dirty, I suppose, and like it would do in service. But yeah, a bit of a nuisance. It looks like I'm going to have to get a new acrylic airbrush, one of these cheap battery ones. I suppose that's what it was. It was cheap, and it didn't have a very long lifespan though. I think I might have only had it probably about 18 months. But I'll have a look to see if I can get a slightly better quality one next time, because they are really good when they work, that is. Anyway, I just managed to do it. I suppose you might not see a lot of it on camera. Weathering doesn't always show up that well, because I have numerous people say about weathering it or making it look more weathered, but in real life it looks pretty weathered to me. It depends whether the camera picks it up really, but that's as far as I'm going with the weathering at the moment. I think I'm going to declare this project finished. That's if it can ever be finished. As we all know, it's never ending really. There's more detail I can keep adding and I can just keep going. But at the moment I'm going to call this project finished and bring it to a close. I did add something else to the factory. I bought this conveyor belt from Woodland Scenics and it really looks the part. Yeah, it would have been hard to make something like that. It's 3D printed, looks really good. So that and improvised stuff has really sort of bears fruits really, and giving somewhat an authentic look to this factory. You know, another off-the-shelf thing was this Backman Scenecraft cement works. Bit of building, I suppose. You can add stuff to it, but I just chose to buy that as it was quite a good buy. 3D hoppers that I bought and assembled, pretty good. I can't remember where they were from. And I've adapted stuff that I had already. This dispenser, as I called it. It's I did put some I don't know what you call it, sort of chutes underneath here. You probably can't see them, it's quite dark. There already were one under there, but you couldn't see it. And somebody remarked there'd be something under there to shoot it into the wagon without getting anywhere. Well, there was, but it wasn't very pronounced. So I've doubled it in size and lowered it a bit so it's more noticeable. I've added a cement mixer like I said I was going to. I repainted it as it come in a plastic sort of creamy, horrible looking colour. It's a German model. I did struggle to find a cement mixer, but it's worked out quite well. I put a Redland transfer on the actual cylinder on the back. Probably could do with some on the doors, but I haven't got any small ones at the moment, so I might look for some small transfers. What did I do? Added piles of aggregate. I just cut a bit of foam away and then built up the aggregate on top and PVA glue, and these poles are movable. Little bits come off them, but they are movable, so I can stick my pole wherever I want. That goes for the other poles around as well. Obviously the most noticeable thing I've added that you probably noticed is lighting. So I've added lights to light the logo up like you would get, and flood lighting elsewhere. There's lights in the buildings, LED lighting just to light it up generally. I was thinking of adding another floodlight to maybe this area over here, but I'm not too convinced that I want too much light. Just want it to look like just lit in the hillside without too much ambient light elsewhere. So I'm sticking with what I've got so far, because I reckon that looks good enough. But as I just said, you just keep going with this. Even though I made these piles of gravel, they do look very good from above, but if you go sort of baseboard level, you can see that they're raised at the edges. It is quite flexible still and does bend down, but tends to bend up again. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to flatten that, maybe make it hard, and then it'll look better, or whether I should actually glue it down completely. But in hindsight, it was a good idea, but as I said, you get close to it, it don't look that good. But what it is just sort of to save gravel, I just put a bit of foam underneath and then built the gravel up on top of it. And hopefully I was trying to get it to level, but maybe it needs a bit more perfecting. But I didn't really want solid piles everywhere, so I'll still have a go at seeing what I can do in the future to improve that. A few health and safety stickers. Now the logo gets in the way, but that spot filming is like bad timing. It probably takes about 5 minutes to go round the loop and come back, and I chose that minute to film. But anyway, you get the drift of it. There's signs, I've got more signage I can add, and everything's working nicely. Wagons are going through the yard, no problem. There's no detail inside the factory. Whether I'll add some bits and pieces later, I'll see when I come to do that sort of thing, or if I get around to it. There's just so many projects you can do and so much you can add. One of the fundamental things you might notice is I have weathered it now. Possibly doesn't show up that great on the camera, but believe me, it does look quite weathered when you're close to it for real life. And I did struggle a bit, as I said previously. My airbrush died a death, battery's gone, so I really struggle to do this, so I'm going to have to buy a new one. But I think the weathering has really taken that newness look away and made it look like there's cement powder all over the place. Just for effect, I think I'll turn the lights off and see what it looks like as a sort of a night scene. And hopefully the camera's picking this up fairly well, and it has got a reasonable night vision side to this camera, and I think that looks pretty damn good, and I'm personally really pleased with that. It's hard at this stage to think how I can improve on it, but there always is ways. But I love that, I think that's great, and thank you very much for all your ideas and stuff. Some of them I have incorporated, you may notice them, and it's all gone towards making this project a real success. Nicely lit on the horizon like I envisaged, and gives me a nice night scene to look into the distance at. So all the factory workers are working through the night, and the yard's all lit while they're busy toiling away. Good scene, I reckon. And with the lights back on, I'll say goodbye, thanks for watching, and all those nice comments. Cheers, see you next time. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.